too, right?
Yes.
He was a cook and
he was
movie.
playing a gig
Yeah.
at I don't know, some juke joint in Pearl
But
Harbor.
for the
Who was
for
your
on
dad?
his own,
Yes.
he played
No.
the trumpet, I think.
Yes, he did. And he and the band were playing. They were all military guys.
But they were on the Arizona.
They were on
Yes.
the Arizona.
Stationed on.
They were
They were
stationed,
stationed
on it.
And
But they had a gig somewhere.
they had a gig Saturday night.
and that's what happened.
Sunday morning
Sunday
was
morning.
Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Your dad was laid up with some girl, and he was late on Liberty
That's
to
right.
get back.
Not
and
my
that's, No, it was a native
Local
Yeah.
girl,
Yeah.
and that's why he was late getting
Town.
back to the Arizona.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
And-
that's why I didn't hear that story.
Okay,
He saved his life.
and
Yeah.
all of their
And all of
buddies
yours.
that
I
they
know. When I went to Arizona, I got pictures for Dad of it, and
Raymond Necessary died. All their guys
their
that they went to
yeah.
high school
Yeah.
with, they
Wow.
all died
right
on the Arizona.
Yeah.
And that's why my dad would never go. Your dad went one time, I guess, a long time ago to Hawaii.
Well, he had been to I went to Hawaii in the 80s, and I took pictures and close-up pictures of the names on the Arizona and took it back to Dad. It was a very emotional
Yes,
experience for him. Now I know why.
yes.
And well, not just. I mean, obvious they were buddies and friends, but now I know why I felt guilty.
Well,
So
Raymond
Mike
Ness-
was also
no. But see, my dad and your dad
But
went to
the
enlist
Dad
at
went
the
to Arizona after I went, and later, and he did finally go
Yes.
on his own.
and my dad would never go. And the reason was that, see, all their buddies that they went to Chrisman High School with,
Right.
they all enlisted together.
Right.
Well, my dad had heart murmur.
So he
And
couldn't go.
he didn't go with all of them. They went ahead and enlisted. My dad had to stay back.
Right.
So my dad forged documents, said he was older than he was, and he took bromo seltzer. You know what bromo seltzer was? And it masked the heart murmur. And then he went in with the next group. So he would have been part
On
of the Arizona
too.
as well.
Yeah.
wow.
This is that car. This is the convertible
It
That
is.
they drove off
that
the
they
bridge.
drove off the bridge.
You're kidding. He was already with my mom.
Yes. That's the one.
Hmm.
And those girls did not live.
She wasn't in the car. No, the girls that were in the car with him didn't make it.
No.
Well,
For
let's just
real?
say that behavior
For real?
never ended.
For
They
real.
died?
They died. They drowned.
died.
Neither one of our dads went back after them.
We're going to have to look that up
Whoa.
in the newspaper.
Chappaquiddick of their own.
Yes, yeah.
I mean,
They were in a convertible and they
It
couldn't
was
get
nowadays,
the car
that'd
up,
still
so
be
they
hunting
ran.
Well, something common with the Kennedys.
Yeah.
Besides Catholicism,
I'm sorry, that was really bad.
We came to a
Alfred.
conclusion.
yeah, we came up with
Her
something.
dad.
Art,
You should
Joe,
tell him.
Well, he'll hear it. Michael tells it best. She knows the story.
Art, Joe.
Oh my God.
Is that?
And
It's
her
either
dad.
you or me.
There's another brother in there.
Brent.
I really want to
Not very stellar.
Is Brent
That's my
older
mom.
than you?
Yes.
Okay. See, I thought
year
Brent was
apart
a year
from-
younger
year
than
and
you.
3 months
That's
older.
Brent.
Drove across the bridge with 2 women.
Okay. Spike, Ernest, Ruth.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about Michael's mother, Thalia.
Thalia.
Thalia Barone.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Thalia.
Thalia Barone.
I never knew
Who I
that was
never
her name.
knew.
Her name, well, that wasn't
Her
her
name.
name. Thalia wasn't even her name.
What was her name, Michael?
She had no name for 5 years. When she was born, her mother did not want her because she wasn't a boy. You know, in the Italian home, men carry on the family name. Okay, well, my grandparents had a male child, and he died at the age of 7 of an appendicitis. And my grandmother and my grandfather tried one more time to have a male child, and my mother was born. And she rejected my mother and did not want her.
Didn't name her.
And did not name her, period. And my grandmother died of an appendicitis in 1925. My mother was born in 20. My mother had no name. And so the way Dolly came about was my grandfather called her his little Dolly. She had no name. Finally, after my grandmother died when she was 5, my grandfather named her Italia, which is Italy in Italian. And she so hated the name, being named a country. When she became 18, she went to court and had it legally changed to Thalia, because Thalia was a Greek muse in Greek mythology. And her legal name was Thalia Barone. And after she named me, Michael, then she decided she'd like to have the name Michael for a middle name, so she just called herself Thalia Michael.
That sounds like her mom.
Oh,
My grandmother died when I was 3. I don't
Right.
remember
Grandma always called her Mickey because my dad went by Mike. And the reason my dad goes by Mike is because my dad was a boxer in the Navy, and his boxing name was Iron Mike. That's where it came from. His name is Myron.
Yeah, mine.
Yeah, and the only person in the world who ever called him Myron was Grandma.
Someone can get away with it.
Nobody. I mean, oh yeah. And he was a hothead, just like your dad.
Just like that. Dad boxed too, didn't he?
A little, but my dad was in Independence. You know, because
They were street fighters.
They were street boys.
I knew that there was a lot of that kind of stuff that went on.
Well, because there was so much shame attached with the things that our dads were in jail a lot.
I know. I heard they were rough.
They were terrible. One day, it was in the late 30s, your dad was mad at my dad. And there was a shed behind the old house in Independence. And your dad had a fire going, and he had a pair of something similar to long-handled pliers. And he had a piece of metal in this fire, heating it up until it was cherry red. My dad smarted off to him. Your dad threw it at him. My dad ducked, and it burned the shed to the ground.
I heard that story.
Have you heard the garage story?
I don't know.
Okay. Your father received a chemistry set for his 12th birthday. And during the summer, after your father's 12th birthday, cats began disappearing from Independence, Missouri.
Yes, I heard the story.
The summer before, when they were in...
Cats.
Cats.
Cats?
Yes. No, cats. Animals. Meow. Okay. So they had been with Grandpa Green, and Grandpa Green introduced them to an old Indian woman who taught them over the summer how to tan hides. And so they began. My father was the executioner. Your father was the skinner. And there was another couple of guys, Raymond Necessary and a few of the others that were involved in this, and one was the gutter, and one was the bury the evidence anyway. So they had all of these cats' hides tacked up on the walls in the garage. Meanwhile, your dad has his chemistry set, and there was an old Grandpa Green's desk was in the garage. And your dad learned how to salt and keep minnows for fishing later. So he had 5 drawers full of test tubes with salted minnows in a test tube with a cork in it and paraffin around it. Your dad also taught himself how to build bombs.
Yeah.
And he built a bomb, and they blew up the garage.
I didn't know the entire story, but I did know they blew up the garage.
And they blew up the entire garage, and the stench from the cat hides and the minnows was all over the neighborhood.
I did remember
We
the
are
garage.
boring.
Oh my god.
Hundreds and hundreds of cat hides.
I didn't hear about the cat hides. I knew the cats were disappearing and they had something to do with it, but I didn't hear the whole thing. And I knew they blew up the garage.
The executioner. You just say that to my dad and he will cringe. Who told you that?
They told those stories and smiled and laughed a lot when they were younger about them.
Now, at some point in time, my mother bought my father a convertible like this that he promptly took to Pennsylvania and wrecked. So
Maybe that's the car.
It may have been this car. Germany. gave up, and he helped clean Dachau up.
Yeah, we saw it. He used to have pictures of it that were pretty gnarly. Pretty gnarly, yeah. Ovens with people's bones in them.
Yeah.
Really? Oh my God.
Michael, who did that?
That's our great grandmother. Yes.
The one that's called Butch. Butch Bell.
Aunt Ruth married Ernest Crowell and had Luana, and
Luana married Francis Bell Jr. And they had a
this
son.
and this is their son. This is
son,
Butch.
Francis Bell III, who was called Butch.
He lived in Wichita, and he came to my father and said, "I'm going to buy a restaurant in a place that's up and coming, and I want you to go in half with me."
Who said this?
Uncle Spike.
Uncle Spike.
Kenneth.
Kenneth Nunn.
And
youngest of
my dad
my
said,
grandfather's
"Well, where is this?" And he said, "It's in Missouri." And he said, "Well, what is it?" And he said, I'm gonna buy a barbecue joint in a place called Branson, Missouri, for $55,000." And my dad said, "No, who wants to live in a trailer in Missouri?" And when Spike sold it, when he retired, he sold it for $8 million.
And he had no children.
None.
So what happened to all of his $8 million?
I have no idea.
He had a very good time.
Well, he remarried that woman.
Yeah,
I assume she got
and
that.
was there another business too, or just the funeral?
No, just a funeral.
Yeah, I remember my dad said that before the war he worked in it as
And
an
they
undertaker.
lived above.
Yes.
Yeah.
And right before Grandpa died, he worked for Raleigh Speaks, and he lived back in that apartment.
I remember that.
Because after he died, I went up and got Grandma's cedar chest and took it home. He had left it under an open window, and it had rained on it. It's in bad shape, but I have it. The lock's missing out of it. It's in pretty bad shape.
Raised really well.
They were raised in a completely dysfunctional family. Our grandmother was they loved her. She was very much a ne'er-do-well. She considered herself a Bostonian. And
Like a drifter? A con woman type thing? Or just
no. She
upper
just
class.
considered herself very upper class, and that she married below her level in marrying Arthur. And then Ulysses and Abby did not like Arthur at all.
her mother?
No, they're
Yes.
her husband.
Yeah,
but
her mother and
didn't
father
like
did
her-
not
her
like,
new husband
yes.
'cause he wasn't.
Right. They didn't,
Ulysses was a minister, for one.
Yeah, not always held in the highest regard.
And that was LDS?
RLDS, yeah.
Yes.
RL now, what's,
Reorganized Church of Latter-day Saints.
that's not the same ones that are out. in
LDS is the Mormon Church, the Latter-day Saints. Because they were narcissistic.
You're kidding.
They were, you know, how they went.
I knew that.
They went from being the shame of Independence, Missouri, to some kind of something in their own minds that never existed. And I could never rationalize that in my own mind. I remember
They came
years.
from nothing and made something.
Yeah, really. Well, maybe your dad did with a PhD, but mine worked at Cessna for 33 years.
Well, but
But you know,
But that was during a time when blue collar work
but he
was.
did. You're right.
He was at the high end of blue collar work.
Well,
wasn't
it was.
he didn't have to declare bankruptcy for several times.
And he bailed his father out 120
There you go.
times. They both,
Yeah.
you know,
Had a nice
do you know
house.
why you came to Wichita all those times you came to Wichita? Do you know why? It wasn't just for visits. Do you know why? Grandma and Grandpa kept getting into trouble financially, and so you guys would come out, and they would sit down and have a family meet. That's when we all got thrown in the basement, or told to go to the pool, or out in the backyard in a tent. Remember all that? And then they would have a big meeting and financially bail them out. That's what all that was.
What are we talking about?
Okay, look
It's
at my
this hand.
hand. Look at my hand. Look at my ring finger and next to my middle finger.
They
don't
don't
touch.
come together at the top. The knuckles keep these.
This one I can.
Well, I'm a nun.
Most
Mine touch.
I know, but the older
I don't
nuns.
have it.
Yeah,
My brother has.
No, I'm talking about my dad.
Okay.
Your dad.
And then
Or
this hand that's
Bill has it. Yeah.
Not me though. I don't have it.
Everybody's looking. You got them all checking out their hands.
I have to like
So
really
in other words, the
push.
next reunion has to be the other side of the family.
Amen.
Yeah, now don't be too
Let me
excited
the other
about
hand.
that.
It's like this, buddy.
And
Yeah. Live
Okay,
long
see
ever.
you later.
See you, man.